So I just want to warn you guys. I try not to do videos like this one, in that I try not to push my opinions on people, but I was asked what my opinion was. So let me emphasize, this is my opinion. That does not mean that the multi-tool you carry is bad. But I was asked, what are your favorite multi-tools in each of the price brackets? So I went through my kit and I looked at the things I actually are willing to carry. And I wanted to just talk about some of them. And some of them are actually not pictured here. I've not purchased them, but I still like them. So we're going to start with the cheapest and we're going to work our way up. We're only going to go up to the $50 price point, because I think anything above that, and it becomes very, very difficult. It's also very cluttered to determine like who I think would be like a real champion in that bracket. So let's go ahead and get started. So first thing, let's talk about the cheapest multi-tools. Now I'm going to stretch the term a little bit. A lot of people like to think of multi-tools like, oh, it's got to have pliers or whatever. But I want you to expand your concept of what a multi-tool is. Really, what is a multi-tool? I mean, is a plier wrench by Nipix a multi-tool? I mean, well, it can basically, work on any size nut up to, over an inch. Does that make it a multi-tool? I don't know. I think the definition still hasn't been clearly defined. But there are some things that I really, really like. And I would definitely call them multifunctional, okay? So the first thing, let's talk about sub $10. There aren't really many in here, but there is one that absolutely stands head and shoulders above everything else in this bracket. It's not the normal multi-tool in that it does what you would always want it to do, but it's so good, I can't not talk about it. The first one is the Work Sharp. This is their micro tool. This has a full hex driver, which is magnetically retained. It comes with storage of 3 bits, and it has both a diamond and ceramic sharpener. Now, that may not seem like a multi-tool in the conventional sense, but I'm going to guess that even if you had like an entire EDC filled with knives made of M390 or whatever, this tool will still be of use. So whether it's fixing those knives, whether it's adjusting various different things. I mean, it's just an incredible tool that will continue to carry with you no matter what. You might take this and then put it in a bag, but I guarantee it'll still be useful. So definitely my top pick, my favorite thing under $10. Not even close, okay? Now, that being said, if you're willing to buy used, then it's a whole nother story, right? It's very difficult to explain. But definitely under $10, this one for sure. The next one we're going to be talking about is the 58 millimeter VIX. I am a huge fan of the 58 millimeter. I do not really like the 91s. I don't feel like there's really that much of a gain. I still feel like when I take them, I want another knife, which is like, why? Okay, that's a little silly if I need another knife on top of it. But when it comes to the 58 is so small, yet there's some things about it that just boggles my mind that they're in the 58 but not in the larger brethren. For instance, the Rambler series, which is the Rambler, the Manager, the Mini Champ, and so on and so forth, have this unbelievably useful multifunctional tool. And it's an inline Phillips that can work up to number 2 Phillips, and I gotta say, I love it. This is the Manager, which in my opinion is the best of all the 58s because it has a pen, and if you don't think that's comfortable, just remember that you have to take that out. So now you have full comfort, all right? These can range. I actually got these used. I mostly get them used, and they can be anywhere from $6, which this was, all the way up to like $12. So they're very inexpensive, and they work just as good as the originals. But the original's about $25, $30, something like that. And as far as the $20 range, also very difficult to find good ones. This one certainly falls in there. This is the Alox Classic, the only one without that tool that I actually like because it's so thin it pretty much fits anywhere, like literally anywhere. Next one is another stretch of let's call them multifunctional. Like, I didn't really go into the pry tools, but I wanted to go into this one because it does have great functions that are great for every day, and it can go anywhere in the world because it has no blades on it. So it has a pen, which is already useful. It's very comfortable to use. It has a nub that allows it to work on screens, might also be useful. And then inside you have a Phillips and flathead, small enough to be used on eyeglasses. And I have them, and that's very useful. The last thing that you may or may not be able to see is it actually has a level. And you might be surprised to find that's actually useful from time to time. Definitely one of my favorites. This is the original, made in the US. This is from Monteverde. Okay? Very, very good piece of equipment. Now, we're moving up to a higher, price range here. In the like $20 to $30 range. I definitely have some strong favorites. My first one is my modified Milwaukee. Now, the problem with recommending this tool is I was able to get them when they first came out, and they have yet to restock them in pretty much anywhere. This thing is insane. Not only does it have a locking full hex bit driver that comes with a Phillips and flathead, because of the way it retains, it'll actually be usable. Where is it? Where's my kit? There it is. It'll actually be usable with Leatherman bits. I know that's pretty awesome, right? So you can actually use this with Leatherman bits. It doesn't require magnetic retention, so these will hold in. You can even store them inside, just like that. And so this is an incredibly functional piece of kit. And I think for a lot of people who don't want the pliers or scissors, they want something that is just like an actual knife. This thing is awesome. It even has a bottle opener. So definitely one of my favorites. I got that for $23. Really, really great. Definitely one of my favorite knife hybrid multi-tools for sure. I just wish they were available so I could recommend them. Probably my number one, if I was going to recommend one multi-tool to literally anyone in the world, or if I was going to give a gift to somebody, this would be the tool. This is, in my opinion, the best multi-tool that exists. The only one that comes close is probably the Manager, but the reason this is so good is it has no blades, which means this can stay on your keychain, go through TSA security, and you'll never have an issue. It has the wire cutters, it has the mini pliers that are useful, it has a pair of scissors, it has a nail file, it has tweezers, etc., etc. And in my version, I even have it so that I modified it to use actual Leatherman bits. Let me grab that. So all I do is press this down, slide this in. This modification took very little time, very, very easy to do, and this spring will actually keep the bits from falling. Awesome. So basically, this is like a mini skeletal tool with no blade. So if you carry a nice fixed folding knife, this would be the one I would recommend. It's the only multi-tool I can literally recommend to everybody in the world, period. Not even close. Even the scissors are decent. They're not the best scissors, but they are fine-tipped enough to actually get cuticles, which I love about the 58mm as well. Speaking of scissors, I don't think there really are any better scissors than the 58mm Victorinox. As of right now, that might change in the future. But these are decent, and they're pretty comparable, and they're certainly better than most scissors, including the Micra, including the Style CX, which out of the box, these are absolutely garbage scissors, as is the Micra. They just don't cut shit. They don't cut anything. Just a waste of time. Now, if you do what I did, which is reprofile the edge, now they're awesome. But, once again, the problem with the CX is it has a blade, and that makes it not able to be carried in TSA. But I still use it because of that resharpened edge. Okay? So we went through this. I'm a huge fan of this. And then as far as like a true multi-tool in this category, the only one that I can recommend that stays in the $20 to $30 price point is the Gerber NXT. It has a lot of features that I require in my everyday carry multi-tools. It has to have a pocket clip. It should be relatively light, and so on and so forth. And this actually still qualifies, and that's actually kind of a cool thing. And it's really budget friendly. It's also very easy to find. So it has the pocket clip, like I said. It has a pair of scissors. It has a pair of pliers. They are spring-loaded, which is surprisingly very nice. Okay, and the tips actually come to a decent crimping point. So this is actually an excellent tool. It's even got decent ergonomics, which surprised me. The literal worst thing about this thing is the blade. Now, I can technically still one-hand it, but you should treat this like the blade doesn't exist. If you look at the rest of it, it's still really excellent. You have a full three-dimensional Phillips. This is one of the best Phillips ever. Everything locks. You have an awl, which comes in handy. You have a really nice flathead. This file does work. and the actual depth gauge. That is actually quite useful. Scissors. The scissors are decent. They're not as good as this because they're not as fine tipped to get do hygiene related tasks, but they're not bad. Then you have this combo tool, which is whatever. And then this is actually great. It actually is a V-shaped wire stripper. I really like that. And the flathead, that's pretty solid. But literally everything except for the blade on this is really quite good. And it still has their warranty. So this I got for $25, but I've seen it for as low as $20. So really, really good for the cost. For the cost being the key word there. Okay. Now the last one, we're going all the way up. See, so 30 to 39. I was scratching my head, and honestly, I couldn't really find any in my setup that I had that were in that price point. It was kind of awkward. Most everything is jumps up there to the $40 to $50 range. I have to look a little bit further into my kit and see what I can find that qualifies, but I didn't see much, which is weird. But anyway, 40 to 50. I might come back and fill in this gap. But 40 to 50, one of the tools that seems to make it in the most is actually a T4. Now, there's only two things that I think you should do to improve this, and then it becomes insanely good. The first one is removing one of the two springs from the same side as the blade. When you do that, it actually makes the blade much easier to open. That was one of the complaints that I see constantly, and it's much, much, much better. That's the only thing you have to do to this side, and that can always be reversed if you want to, send it in for warranty or whatever. And then on this side, there is only one change that makes any sense, and that is to modify this Phillips. Now, keep in mind that this modification will, in fact, ruin your warranty. And so I want to show you this on the T2. And basically what I did is I reprofiled the Phillips driver. And what that does is that lets me, lets me use this, converter. And let me tell you, that makes the T4 or T2 massively improved, hugely improved. The amount of functions you can then include are pretty substantial. And while I'm on this, I want to show you another reason why I think that the Rambler Manager Mini Champ might be one of the best, is because this is yet another tool that has the ability to work with this. And yeah, it works diagonally instead of part of the square, but it is incredibly firm and it is inline, and this would be very useful. So I think for most people, the two that I recommend the most are definitely the Manager, which I love the pen on it. It's pressurized just like a Fisher Space Pen, and the Style PS. Those are absolutely my top recommendations for literally anyone. They're funny enough, they're the smallest ones that I own. I mean, you've seen I carried some of the biggest things out there. I carried the SR1 as my folding knife, all right? But Style PS, Manager, they're definitely the ones I recommend. All right, I'm sorry it got a little lengthy. I was expecting that to pretty much happen, but it is what it is. You're going to have to figure out what works for you. As far as recommendations are concerned, invisible tools like these here are quite a bit more useful than you might originally understand, because things like the T4, as good as they are, and I do think the T4 is probably the only one of the free series that I would actually recommend, they take up a slot that might otherwise be occupied by something like a folding knife or something like this. And because of that, these invisible keychain-esque tools are really the multi-tools that I recommend highest. And I think small multi-tools like this that have the right functionality, I think if you make this modification, it becomes like a mini skeletal in the case of a Style PS. And it's just super small and light. It still has that bottle opener even. So I think that mini multi-tools are definitely my favorite. And they're certainly the ones I recommend the most. So I hope that was helpful to somebody who was trying to make a decision. I didn't want to go into the really expensive ones and like, what good does it do to recommend those? But no, take a look at the 58 millimeters. You saw how I can use the Leatherman bit exchanger for that. I mean, that is a huge functionality improvement, right? So, yeah, sorry for the ramble. I hope you enjoy, and take a look at the rest of the content. Let me know if you like it. Make comments. I try to best to respond, and yeah, hope you enjoy.